Get this, Ontario's Fairness Commissioner has left taxpayers on the hook for thousands of dollars. Doesn't sound too fair that Jean Augustine billed Ontarians for limousine rides and even for smaller fees like airplane earphones, a sightseeing tour, and some snacks. Ontario's Trade Minister says Augustine repaid all the expenses after an FOI request by Ontario PC party members. Sun News contributor Rebecca Thompson joins us now for more. Okay, a couple big questions. Ontario Fairness Commissioner, what is going on here? This position was created in 2007. I try and wrap my head around what it is. The basic idea is that they want to make sure if you have the qualifications to work in some sort of field or sector, then you can get your credentials. I don't understand why there's a commissioner for it. This is weird stuff. Ripe for abuse.
You know, it is weird. I will say that there was a need for it in 2007. The Ontario government recognized that there were a lot of immigrants who moved to Ontario and didn't want to drive a taxi cab, for example, because they were a doctor and they had their qualifications, and so they should be recognized as such, and so they had to be regulated. But herein lies the challenge, and this is what gets under people's skin. I
just want to interrupt. There's a ministry for that. I think that should be done in-house rather than creating new bodies.
You're absolutely right.
Please continue.
And not to mention the fact that they have overseen, the Office of the Fairness Commissioner, the establishment of the Ontario College of Trades. So all of those trades, plumbers and you know, mechanics, they now have to be regulated and pay huge fees because the Ontario Fairness Commissioner said so.
Well, we want to help new immigrants by adding fees to hairstylists in Thunder Bay. Only government. Only government. Anyway, let's continue with this. I'm going to put up some boards here. These are the small fees that Jean Augustine expensed while she was on a little foreign mission, a conference. Headphones on a flight to Halifax, $3.41. So she didn't have her iPhone, little earbuds. She wanted to watch the movie. Okay, then we sing the sightseeing tour. A beef sandwich on the plane. Breakfast at the hotel, €650. Rebecca, what I don't get, if you go, okay, you're going off to your workplace, most people don't have this covered for by work.
No,
the taxpayer.
They certainly don't. And this is what gets under people's skin, because as you'll see here, she's making $566 every day, which works out to be, if you calculate that over a year, $140,000, if not more, in compensation. You know, she expensed nearly $3,500 for limousine rides over a one-year period. For what? Why is the Ontario Fairness Commissioner taking a limousine anywhere? This is the egregious example of what gets under people's skin in terms of people's tax dollars being misused.
And it frustrates me so much because someone's going to write in and say, look, Fury, you guys don't get it. You're talking about $1 billion of debt, and then you complain about this one ladies' little dinner. But the question is, if her and Bev Oda and everyone else all have a $30 orange juice, that's adding up to a lot of $30 orange juices, and it also tells you when they're approving different budget line items, which these people have the delegated authority to do in some cases, if they're shrugging off their own orange juice, what else are they shrugging off in the system? This is how we get this systemic rot in government to begin with, the whole entitlement culture.
Absolutely. And you could see it, for example, with the Pan Am Games CEO who was making $477,000 a year, was expensing his $2 Starbucks coffee or sending his laundry to the laundromat, and that was being expensed. These things matter to people because you cannot get away with this if you work in the private sector, nor should you, and you shouldn't get away with it if you work in the public sector. And yet we see it time and time again. This kind of behavior is unacceptable, and certainly if she is going to repay her expenses, which apparently she has, then this is the kind of thing that should not happen again.
Well, we've been told that Augustine's office records say she's paid them back. That's what Trade Minister Michael Chan suggested. But she's only paid back about $19 worth. So I had covering one or two things that I guess she agreed were questionable, something to do with going over her per diems for stuff. She made a trip to Tampere, Finland in 2013. International Metropolis Conference focused on managing growth, security, and social justice. Why is she going to Finland in 2013 on a trip? Why is this Fairness Commissioner, who I've already laid the case, the office shouldn't even exist to begin with, why is she flying to Finland on our dime? I just don't get what's going on here. If there's a problem with credentials, fine, Dalton figures it out in 06 or whatever, then just tell the deputy minister for trade or whatever, deal with it. None.
Not to mention the fact that she registered so late that she had to pay the very expensive late registration fee for a conference in Finland about migration and integration, whatever that means. This is an office that is overseeing regulated professions in Ontario. Why do you have to travel to Europe on an expensive trip to basically do what there's already set up in the bureaucracy to do?
Now, I used to end these segments saying, what can we do? What do we do next? How do we stop this from happening again? But I've asked that question, and then we come back a few months later, and then there's a new story like this. So I'll put the question to you, and if you just want to let the crickets chirp, go right ahead, because I don't have an answer to it, because the rot ain't going away, besides dismantling the government.
Well, I think a lot of people would agree that small government is the way to go. Was this office necessary to set up to begin with? You know, do you really need to set up so many various agencies? Because there have been a whole plethora of agencies developed and created under the Ontario Liberal government since 2003. Perhaps you should review exactly what your government, in terms of its responsibilities, and then decide, look, we need to cut the fat.
Rebecca Thompson, thank you. Folks, I've always argued most of these agencies, boards, and commissions don't need to exist. You either privatize the operation or you fold it into the ministry. Arm's length, recipe for disaster.